Hello, my name is Owen. Today we're doing a quick review of Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us. What I want to do is give a brief overview of the book's about, tell you the things that I liked, and tell you the things that I didn't like. Going straight into it, for those of you that don't know, this is a book, a pretty deep book. It gets really dark at times. It's about abuse. It's about abusive households, about abusive relationships, and breaking the cycle of abuse. And for those of you that have been living under a rock, this book is extraordinarily popular. And Colleen Hoover is an extraordinarily popular author. This book was published in 2016, I believe, and over the pandemic, over the rise of booktok, this book was riding the riding the wave and the chosen book. So it just exploded in popularity all over the place, and now everyone is touting Colleen Hoover's praises, and she's probably one of the best-selling authors of the last 20 years or so, I would imagine. So knowing me, knowing all these facts, I was a hater. Not that I thought that it was definitely bad. I just heavily assumed that these books would be absolute, utter garbage tier trash. Because, I've been to Barnes & Noble. I've been to their bookshelves. I've seen, oh, the book of the month. This book's really good. And then I read the book and it's, average at best. So it just makes me think, it makes me a little skeptical. Someone's just sliding billions under the table to say, hey, my daughter or my son's book is quite good, isn't it? You know what I mean? And, sliding the money under the table. It makes me a little bit skeptical. So I just assumed that if it achieved this level of insane popularity, someone's getting paid under the table, because there's no way that these books are that good. That was my mindset going into it. When I actually started the book, though, I did have an open, positive mindset, just to hold your horses a little bit. And not only did I want to see what's going on here, and if I hated it, see why I thought people liked it, because it is extraordinarily popular. But I also just like to keep up on the trends, This is an extraordinarily popular book that I have no idea, why it's beloved, and who knows, it might go down, it might stand the test of time, it might be lost in the annals of history, it might stand the test of time and be a 2010s classic, who knows? So I wanted to check it out. And also I got it for a free audiobook on Libby, so when else? Am I right? I'll just say this, guys. Before, I know I've been doing a lot of build-up, I've been 2 minutes of build-up, I haven't even started talking about my feelings about the book yet. But for those of you that know me, I read fantasy, I read some classics, I dabble in romance in the form of Daphne du Maurier, but she's really more thriller suspense. This genre, in general, not really my forte. Not really something I delved into a lot. And that being said, the book is good. The book is quite good, in fact, and I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. As I said, I listened to it in an audiobook, and I had a really long drive the other day, so I, on the way there and the way back, I just listened to it the whole time, and I finished it. Your boy was engrossed. I was bought in, emotionally, plot-wise, character-wise. I was there for it. And not to say this book is perfect, and just going over the things that I didn't like, I guess. The book gets very physical, and I'm not talking about the abuse parts. I'm talking about like doing the deed. And listen, I'm not your 50th Shade of Grey. It's not my cup of tea. It's not really something I read. Not really something that I particularly enjoy either. And there is a lot of it, especially in the first half of the book. These characters are in a very, very physical relationship, which I think, knowing how the story plays out, it's very integral to the foundation of the relationship and where it goes, that they do have such a physical relationship. But some of the scenes are really graphic, and I'm just this, you know what, we could have done a cutaway. It's really fine. I don't particularly enjoy it, and it just seems gratuitous. It's a little bit schlocky in my opinion, and there's a lot of that. Not really a huge fan. That being said, the romance aspects of it outside of that, I thought felt genuine, and in general, like I say about a lot of books, if I connect with a book, it's because I connect with it on an emotional level. And the main character, Lily Bloom, great protagonist, because I was worried a lot, because obviously it's a very complex topic, abuse and abusive relationships, and I think the author does a fantastic job at giving us a character who is extraordinarily competent and extraordinarily smart, because a lot of times, I was expecting the character to make an obviously stupid decision to stay in this relationship, or to make the wrong decision in regard to this man that she's dating. But every time I'm well, why don't you ask him this question? The next page she's asks them the question. I'm like, okay, or it's like, you should set the boundary right now, and she sets the boundary, right? And then the ways that she fails or doesn't do everything she could, it's presented in a way that is reasonable, and her doubts are very clearly presented, which is the author's intention. Because the author's intention is to show that like people that don't leave abusive relationships, it's not because they're weak or they're stupid or they're like or whatever. It's because there are serious doubts for like legitimate reasons, serious concerns, and like there is serious love there as a foundation. Which is someone who like will never be able to see that perspective to like enter the character's perspective as she's learning that based on like her mother's past experience, and she's experiencing these doubts, especially starting out like the first half of the book is just pure romance, pure falling in love. It does make a very complex scenario, which makes you empathize so much more with like abuse victims and with this character. And I think it's fantastically done. And I've seen some complaints about this book. I've seen some complaints where it's like, in some ways, like she's glorifying like abuse, and like the character isn't hard enough on the abusive male character. And it's definitely true. She's not hard enough, but I think it was a purposeful author decision to make the character that way. Because especially like a lot of decisions, like I said, like the character does not make a lot of stupid decisions. The only stupid decision she makes is not like a completely like pushing him out of her life, but it's explained countless times why she can't do that, and she's aware of that it's a bad thing that she can't do that. And there's a thing too, I saw a complaint about like the abuse in some ways is presented as like a Jekyll and Hyde situation where like the guy's like he loses control in his past trauma. And when I first read that, I'm like, well, that seems like kind of a bit of a cop out. And I watched some other reviews before this where they're like, yeah, like it seems like problematic to say like, oh, abusive people aren't evil. It's just like they like turn into a monster and they can't control it. But I think that wasn't like a purposeful author decision to present the issue this way. It was the way that the character of Lily interpreted that, if that makes sense. So everything that's like interpreted in like a maybe like negative or overly positive way towards the abuser is the character's perspective, and that's why it has the problem of they can't escape and they're trapped in this cycle. Because one of the most illuminating things for me was the author's note at the end of the book, where she says that this is based on her parents' relationship and why her mom's journey in real life. And she based that whole journey that it's not indicative of every abusive relationship. This is a specific archetype that I wanted to share in the story. So I feel like all these complaints that I've heard about like how the abusive relationship is presented, if you think that it's not tough enough, it's not that, it's not this, it's based off a real experience, and the author is purposely making the character not be as hard on them because of all the background information that they have there. And she even says in the author's note, like, there are times where I love the male character so much that I wanted to get rid of the parts where he's abusive, which she can't do because it would hurt the integrity of the story. There are times where she wanted to make the female protagonist Lily more strong, or stand up to even make even firmer lines, knock him out the first time and say like, I'm done with you, like you're dead, and send you to the police. But she couldn't do that because it's not the story she was trying to tell. Because in that way, the flaws of the protagonist, despite how strong she is, but despite her like having a happy ending at the end, it just shows like how complex this issue is. And I feel like to present it any other way would have been disingenuous to the type of story that she was telling. And I just think it made for a very strong story. I think the message was hit home extraordinarily well. And I was engrossed. And like I said, guys, I could absolutely see why this book was so popular. And like, I feel a little bit bad, for hating on it without knowing anything about it, because this book is extraordinarily well written. Maybe a little bit overwritten at times, maybe overly described, maybe a little bit cheesy in its descriptions in some cases. But everything I noticed, like writing quality wise, I noticed all in the first half. Once it started to get like the story flipped from romance to like, boom, like we got to get out of an abusive relationship, I think it was extraordinarily strong, and I was invested. And the author did a great job at setting the emotional tone. When Lily was scared, I was scared. I felt the suspense. I felt the horror. I felt like the inevitability of her situations. And it really puts you in the mindset of someone that's trapped in a relationship like this, which is just spectacular writing. And listen, guys, do I think it's the greatest novel of all time? Does it reach literature status? I don't know. I don't know if it's that good, right? It's not like your your Grapes of Wrath. It's not going to be like War and Peace or like whatever your classics you're going to throw at me. But it is extraordinarily well written, and I think it's not overrated. It's a little bit overhated, right? People love this book, and I could see why they love this book. And it's simply enough written with a strong enough message and emotional core that I feel like a book like this deserves to have the mainstream success. And maybe that's a testament to BookTok. Congratulations, BookTok. You did something right for once. But the book is good. The book is very good, in fact. Will I say it's for everyone? Probably not. Some people might be annoyed by like the writing style and like has like some like the rom-com trope, especially in the beginning of like how they meet and how they keep running into each other. Oh my God, life's so crazy. Oh my God, my ex is here. There's a little bit of that, and especially like what I said like about like the physical scenes. Like if you're into like more like physical romance type books, like you're definitely connect with this, and then you're probably going to be even sucked in even more in the second half. As someone who's not really into that genre, some of it's a little cheesy, like how she meets her best friend, like she's like, oh, like I'm rich, but I want to work for you for fun, and they become best friends. It's like, all right, whatever, what's going on there? But you know, like looking past like that is like a genre trope, which I was pretty easily able to do even when it happened. I'm like, okay, this is just the mark of the genre, right? They're gonna keep running into each other. The exes are gonna show up. You know what I mean? Just knowing that is like, it's like you're watching a rom-com. You know certain beats are gonna be hit, and if you go in there with a positive mindset of like, this is just the way of the game, it's not a big deal at all. And I really wasn't bothered by any of that. There were some moments where I thought like like I said, especially in the beginning when the main character is like adding like her little quips at the end of like sentences or like delving deep into her thoughts. I'm like, okay, we probably could have done a little bit less of that. You're like talking too much to me. Like get on with the strict plot. But that really went away as I started to get invested in the character, and really I just liked it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fairly quick read, or quick listen rather. The audiobook was around like 11 hours, I think. But it was just good, man. And you know what? I didn't think that someone like me, with my reading taste, would enjoy it. But it gets my stamp, man. And you know what? That's the only thing a book needs is my stamp. So add it to the list of things that Owen approves. You're welcome, readers. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like this video, and if you want to see more in the future. I appreciate your support, guys. Yeah, be sure to stick around. All right, thanks for sticking around.